Hi, this is Janelli. Today we're going to be creating a profile picture for Twitch. This is for a wonderful member of our Russian Fishing 4 community. His name is Sliced Spamalam, and he wanted something based on a tin of spam with arms and legs. This is the final image we'll end up with after this process. We're going to start out in Procreate to do a sketch. We're going to bring in a reference image of a tin of spam to get started. This reference image is a 2D picture of spam, and we want this to be a 3D type of image. So I'm going to go ahead and put it kind of sideways so that we can have a little bit of perspective and a little more life to it. To make sure this looks like a fishing stream, we're going to add a fishing rod and a fish and a tackle box. We're finishing up the rough sketch now. At this point, once the tackle box is in, I reduce the opacity of that layer, I create a new layer, and I start to refine the image. So first of all, I'm kind of focusing on the shape of the tin of spam and making those edges rounded in an effort to make the word spam look pretty close to what is on the actual tin. I bring in a copy of the word and I trace over it. I don't make it very precise because I do want to make sure that this does look hand-drawn, but I am going to cheat on that part. Now I go ahead and draw in the sandwich, spamwich, and start to put in the flats, just to kind of get an idea of what my color scheme is going to be and see how it's shaping up. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and draw in the robot legs. And I realize that maybe I don't really know how to draw robot legs. So I bring in a reference. Always bring in a reference if you need one. Now at this point, I'm going to put in the arms and I'm going to bring in a bream. This is a picture from Russian Fishing 4, from the actual fish in the game. This particular fish is important because Spam can pretty much catch any fish in the game. He's taught a lot of us how to play the game and succeed at catching trophies. You try and catch trophies on every single map in the game. The bream on Oldberg eluded him for the longest time and was a long-running joke. So of course it had to come in here as a meme. So we have a bream there, and now we've got the fishing rod coming in. I'm going to do the hand first. We're also going to refine some of the lines before I do this because some things are catching my attention on the legs, refining the joints, and now here comes the fishing rod. I'm going to put in a tackle box too. Although we don't have them in Russian Fishing 4, it makes for a nice profile picture. And of course, he has to have something to stand on. So once I'm done with the tackle box, I'm going to sketch in a dock, the water, some rough trees. Here we go. Again, very rough sketch, and a sky. Now, a rough sketch is done and ready to go over into Fresco. I go to Fresco for the vector art because it allows you to take things and scale them up. So I can put this on a billboard if I wanted to, or I can take it down to very, very tiny, which is really important for things like Twitch, where you're dealing with, 100 pixels by 100 pixels on mobile and even smaller in some cases. A profile picture is typically 256 by 256. It just makes it a lot easier to work in vector art, especially for emotes and things like this. At this point, I'm working on the line art. And you can see there that I'm crossing over all of my lines, letting them intersect here so that I can take advantage of Adobe Fresco's vector trimming tool. It allows you to get those really sharp lines, as you can see on the fish. Now, the first thing I normally do is go around the outside with my thicker inking lines. You typically want to have thicker lines on the outside of your image when you're inking, and then smaller pieces like the fingers, all the detail of the burger, spamwich, I'm not really sure. So the typical rule is you want your exterior lines to be about twice the size of your interior lines. Your interior lines are going to give you your fingers, the joints, the image of the sandwich, the details on the fish, the tackle box, all of this kind of thing. So in this case, what I normally use for my emotes is the outside line will be set to 21.5, and my inside lines will be set to 13. You can see on the letters here that I'm using the vector trimming approach. The reason I do this, especially with lettering, is that when you're taking a curve, like let's say the P, you're trying to come around with the P and land it into the solid line that's there. If you don't use the vector trimming, then when you approach the line and you have to stop exactly, what you end up doing is slowing down, and it can really interrupt the flow of your curves. So it's really, really nice when you're using curves to just go ahead and let it go through and do the vector trimming afterwards. As you can see, that M turned out a little wonky. I'll have to go back and fix that later. So now I'm turning off the background. I'm taking a quick look just at the image here and make sure that all my lines look good without any distracting background. So the rest of the lines are now going to get filled in. And at this point, when I'm working on the tackle box, I forget that I haven't gone through and finished the handle. That'll get fixed later on. I'm cleaning up the legs, and I'm going to clean up the arms. And I will notice at some point that when I brought over the shoulder, I kind of did it wrong. So I'll be correcting that soon. I do have a note up here to set your line art as a reference layer, because when you do that, you can use the paint bucket tool on the layer below the line art, and it acts as if you're filling in the line, even though the lines are on a separate layer. This is really good in case you want to ever change the ink later on, as you'll see that I'm going to do as we go along with this process. So now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the interior lines on the burger. Now I'm going to fill in the background layer. Now I've kept that ink on a separate layer so that I can put it behind everything else. So I'm going to turn that one into the reference layer, and I'm going to fill in underneath of it. So as I work between these two, I'm switching between the two fill layers and the two reference layers. So there'll be some trial and error going on here while I fix the arm. Now, if that arm had been filled as part of all one layer, I would have had to go through and not only re-ink the arm, but I would have had to repaint everything as well. So by keeping everything on a reference layer, you make your cleanup a lot easier. You'll see another example of this as we go along. So right now we're doing the shading on the legs. And now we're doing the arms and the bottoms of the fingers, just trying to figure out where the shadows fall. Putting in that fishing rod and putting in the highlights now. And now I'm finally fixing that fishing tackle box so that its handle is closed. A little bit of trial and error with that one, have to end up cleaning that one up manually. And I'm redoing the colors on the bream, not quite happy with it. Again, it really helps to have these things on a separate layer. So all of my inks are on one layer and all of my colors are on another. Well, actually, inks are still on two different layers. The background is on one layer and the foreground is on another. Now I'm finally going to fix that little portion of the M that's been bothering me. So the word spam is getting a little bit of an overhaul here, and that looks a lot better. Now it's time to address the dock. And as you see, I didn't quite have something closed there. Now, if you notice the little white spots that showed up when I cleared those lines with the vector trimming, because I had flood filled already using the paint bucket, I had to actually go back in and just flood fill those again. And that's it. There's the profile picture in action. If you like Russian Fishing 4, go check him out. He's a pretty nice guy. And as always, thanks for watching the video. If you have any ways I can improve this, please leave me a comment. Thanks. Bye.